right, hello everybody. Chris Hughes here, along with the coach, Coach Grice, for another edition here of Talking Preps Overtime on the Charlotte Observer. And Coach, we've been knocking it out of the park all year. Speaking of knocking out of the park, my Braves they finished strong, winning the World Series. But anyway, we're knocking it out of the park once again with an incredible interview. Let's bring on one of Charlotte's own, in Stan Norfleet. Not only is he a big-time athlete from Vance, from Independence, went on and did big things at the collegiate level, working the professional level, and now you can hear him on the airwaves here in Charlotte on WFNZ. But Stan, I appreciate you joining Coach Grice and I here for Talking Preps Overtime.
Chris, Coach, I appreciate y'all having me, man. Good morning. You guys been doing a fantastic job. Been monitoring from afar, jumping in when I can, but really appreciate you guys having me on this morning.
Oh, definitely, Stan. We always kind of start this way, and I definitely would love to hear, because I feel like you have one of the more diverse backgrounds of any guests that we have. So could you kind of talk about your history from playing, of course, we know here in the 704 to what you're up to now?
Yeah, so it's weird. I'm originally from Atlanta, Southwest side. My mother and father moved us here in the early 90s. So Vance High School is actually, I know you can't call it Vance anymore, but the first year, its inception, I was over there, just got back from Alabama. And for whatever reason, the politics of the high school game, y'all know how that works. I had to make my way and choose between either West Charlotte, who was the dominant force at the time, or go to the underdog and go to the Big I. Never heard of a dude named C.J. Leak in my life, nor had I heard of Robert Brandon. And lo and behold, we hit our stride. So left Independence, man, and was going to go to, I think last time I counted, man, it was some 50 some odd, what's now FBS, used to be Division I. I'm dating myself. My father happened to be from the state of Virginia. Good school. They had they were ranked at that time top 10 in the country as I was going through the recruiting process. Georgia Tech upset them, so they spiraled after that. But they had just put Pat Kearney, defensive end, to the Atlanta Falcons in the first round. I was an edge player, close to home, great classroom environment, academic reputation and prowess, all of that. And my dad being from the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth, cool, done. Didn't go quite the way I had hoped when I got to Collegeville.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I'm appreciative. Had a chance to play for College Football Hall of Fame head coach George Welsh. And then came Al Groh. And Al Groh, coming from the New York Jets as a head coach, coming to his alma mater, that part was cool. Coach Groh just had a different vision of where he wanted the program to go, as we see it here all the time in college football. And I was kind of that in-between guy. Had some injuries. He was transitioned to a 3-4. I had never stood up on the edge before. I was always a hand in the dirt type of guy. And so Coach Groh said, look, you're a great student, but moving forward, I want to get my young guys. You may have heard of a dude named Ahmad Brooks. He was pretty good for the 49ers.
Yeah.
So Brooks got me out the way. I ended up transferring my 5th year to Texas Southern University out in Houston. Tried to pull a Michael Strahan. Needless to say, Strahan was a little bit better at the position than me. Battled some injuries, man, threw some interest for some teams, the Texans, Baltimore, Jacksonville, and the Cowboys. So they knew that I had a 3-4 background playing for Coach Groh. Got hurt. At that point, man, you know how it is. You got to put on a suit. Business development led to sports media. Sports media led to being I was a scout for the Washington football team for a year, back in the sales, and now back in the media game. Did the ACC nationally via Raycom. Did that for 3 seasons with Coach Tommy Bowden and Katie Witham. But FNZ has always been home, man, been contributing to FNZ circa 2014.
That's great. No, that's definitely, like I said, we teed it up and you deliver with that. I mean, definitely.
I know it's a lot, bro. You got to try and condense it down. It's so many stories in that, man.
Yeah. Oh,
we're going to get to some.
Yeah. Oh, we definitely hope to get to some. No, for sure. Of course, I've got to start here in the 704. I heard you talk about, Vance, formerly Vance, now, of course, Julius Chambers High School. Yeah. Do you still keep up with them? They are kind of at that peak right now. Coach Fairby's got them flying high. I just wanted to know if you keep up with them and your thoughts on them, as well as Charlotte football overall from your viewpoint.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I appreciate you asking that. I do keep my eyes on them. I've traveled so much, man. Like I said, I've lived in Kentucky and Texas and DMV, ATL. I've been all over the place, but I do kind of keep track of what's going on, the players that are coming out. I congratulated Coach on that run, the back-to-back state championships. I mean, that was huge. So I do keep up with it. Now, I honestly have to say, and I wish I didn't have to be 100, but I have to. My relationship with Vans didn't end on the best of notes. So I don't wish them any ill will, but it's just my loyalty lies to the program that embraced me. And what I mentioned, CJ Leak, Robert Brandon, and others, what we did at Independence. I like to say we got the program readied and steadied for that run they went on with Chris, and you guys know about that historic run. So I do keep up with them. I see the guys, we're all husbands. Well, they are husbands and fathers, and you see them around town. Guys like Wesley Bryan, I keep up with Paul Trough. Bull Ware's another guy, went on to play at Tennessee. So I keep up with the guys a little bit. My observation of Charlotte football in general, I had nephews that played at Mallard Creek when Mallard Creek was on their run. It's just a different game today. And I think that's just overall, right? There seems to be more concentration on the specifics. Everybody's a specialist. I'm a pass rush specialist. Bro, you're 16, man. Go do go play tight end, go play receiver, play linebacker, do a little bit of everything to increase your overall recruiting profile. But I get it. They're getting more instruction, bigger, faster, stronger. But I will say, lastly, I think that Charlotte has a profile now that we didn't quite have nationally. When I'm traveling, I tell people, Vans, Independence, again, my nephews at Mallard Creek, people know what that's about throughout the state and throughout the region. So that's kudos, Coach, to folks like yourself and Chris, you guys not just talking it, but out there living, breathing it every day. I commend you guys on that.
Well, Coach, I want to talk a little bit more in detail to your life after Independence. You kind of briefly touched on your career at UVA and moving on with some tryouts. I wanted to see if you could dig a little bit deeper and tell us a little bit how those tryouts went, and then from the tryouts themselves and not making it onto a 53-man NFL roster, moving forward to the business side and the scouting side of the NFL. And even I want you to kind of parlay that together and maybe give your message to players and recruits today, because I was thinking about it when you was talking. I think this all ties together so well, because I know every player that was a big-timer such as yourself has these these thoughts and feelings that they're going to make it and play on Sunday. But honestly, that just doesn't happen for most football players. So you obviously put your education first, and you had a backup plan so you could succeed in life. And I just wanted you to touch on that.
Well, I think the first thing, and what's the most critical piece, is I'm a believer in myself, man, and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, along with my family, friends, and loved ones, have helped guide me. I was actually discussing this with my mother the other day. On her side of the family, I'm the first one to go to and complete a 4-year university, right? So to be able to graduate from a prestigious school with all the history like the University of Virginia was awesome. But I went to 3 different high schools, fellas. Started my first 2 years at Walker High School in Jasper, Alabama, and transitioning from there. And I think I got my first letter from Tennessee when I was in the 9th grade. And so that was the first time I was like, oh, we might be on to something. So I'm like, Lord, appreciate that. Nobody in our family had played outside of high school. My brother played high school. My father played some high school hoops. So just the whole recruiting process, before we even get to UVA, it was wild. I was thankful that God brought an angel into my life, Coach Adrian Stowe. When I was over at Vans, he was the D coordinator, and he, had really had some experience with the recruiting element of how you go about the decision-making process. So it was slow. When you go to 3 high schools, a lot of times programs, they lose track of you. They don't know what's going on. Are you in a healthy situation? So, I drew some interest here and there. I think the first FBS offer I got was Duke. And my mother, we joke about it all the time, she wanted me to call the coach back. Duke at the time had the nation's longest Lugan Street. And she was like, no, call Duke back and tell him you're going. So I was like, Mom, I think if we play this thing out, we're going to have more opportunities. So at the end of the day, my final 3 ended up being Virginia, of course, Notre Dame, Penn State, and then we were right there on the cusp with Tennessee coming off a national championship. So segueing that, part of the reason I chose Virginia is I thought it presented the best opportunity to become well-rounded. I mentioned the academic reputation. If you look at U.S. News and World Reports, it's always a top 25 acclaimed institution in the country. The college football, that obviously the ACC, we know what it was. Virginia was coming off a top 25 finish. I mentioned, putting somebody in the first round at a position that I played. And I just felt comfortable with the environment. Close to home, but still far enough away. But I knew UVA was going to give me an opportunity because of the network, right? My mother, she's a paralegal, and she's been in the legal field most of my life. So going to visit her offices, you see the Duke diplomas and the Wake Forest diplomas in Chapel Hill. So I was like, going to UVA, I see how those guys live, and maybe I could do something like that. I was going to teach and coach. When I was at UVA, people had, what you going to major in, man? I have no idea. If this league thing don't work out, I'm a teaching coach. I do believe in networking. You got to make your friends before you need them, type of thing. So I just had good people in my ear, extremely blessed. And so I got caught up in that coaching change, going from George Welsh to Al Groh. And there's no book, there's no manual to how you handle. I love the school. I want to stay there. These are my brothers. This is my guys. You know, you develop a network there in Charlottesville, and you don't want to leave. The transfer portal was unheard of. But you know, when I was coming through, if you wasn't playing, you just wasn't playing. You just sat the bench, or you did whatever you had to do. You rotated in. And then they came up with something called the Russell Wilson rule. But I transferred because I was a graduate. That's what really opened up an opportunity. Man, I called schools all over the place. I really wanted to go to Georgia Southern because they had a great sports management program. I wasn't even thinking about broadcasting at that point. But relationships, fell in love with the city of Houston. That really allowed me to expand my horizons. I tell young people all the time, don't be afraid to go out of the box sometimes. When it's a healthy environment and it's the right opportunity, sometimes you got to, go down the road less traveled to really carve out your niche and path. And I'm thankful for that, because going to Texas is what opened the door to be able to do things like work within the Texans and hang out with guys in that part of the country, getting familiar with OU and Texas programs and things like that. So I guess to end that with the last part you mentioned, Chris, about playing. I tell this to young guys regularly. Excuse me. The National Football League is a different game. We talk so much about the speed from Friday to Saturday to Sunday. The process, the actual game that's being executed on Saturday and Sunday is different. And if you don't understand, you can't just play plays. You have to understand tendencies. You have to understand route recognition, formation, passing concepts, blocking schemes, all of these things. And if you don't come from the right environment, and I was fortunate playing for a Hall of Famer in George Welsh and a former NFL coach in Al Groh, I knew the game. So being cerebral is what gave me a chance to even compete for a spot. Unfortunately, tore my knee up, man. And it was vicious now. The Houston Texans orthopedist told me in his 35 years of practicing at that time, I had the most significant knee injury he'd ever seen in his career. His words were, I quote, "Stan, I don't even know where to begin to fix your knee." So when you hear that as a young dude,
oh my goodness,
and I'm staring at that UVA degree on the wall, I'm like, good Lord, it's probably time to go do something else. My point being, lastly, it was the relationships. Being able to I got pulled into the Houston Texans organization from somebody, a connection through the UVA's football program. So I tell young guys all the time, you want to go out there, you want to play for a team where they got now the college football playoff. If you can't play in the playoff, then nothing else matters. I push back on that a little bit. As a young player, I would encourage you to go to places that are conducive for you. If you need a smaller classroom setting, then don't go to Ohio State where they got 50,000 undergrads. That doesn't make sense. You're going to get distracted. You want to be close to home, stay close to home. I probably, if I had to do it again, would have chosen. I was on my way to Carolina. Mac Brown goes to get a check in Texas. If Mac Brown stays at Carolina, I'm going to UNC, no doubt. So I would say, you got to be honest with what your situation is. If academics are important to you, cool. Coach is going to come and go. There's always going to be another I was a 4-star kid. There's always going to be another 4 or 5-star kid. Choose environments that are conducive to building you as an individual as much as what they do on Saturdays between the lines.
And Stan, you kind of already answered this question I want to throw at you, but it's still kind of along the lines of the recruiting. You mentioned the networking and putting yourself in the right situation. But what would your advice be to a player out there trying to decide what to do who has those dreams of playing on the NFL? And again, I know the NFL, unlike what football is in the collegiate level or in high school, it is a true professional job that you show up for 70 hours a week just in the film processing and everything that goes along with it. But what would your advice be to a player who thinks that that's what he wants to do, but maybe through the networking and things you mentioned, be able to use football to get themselves as that stepping stone to that career maybe that they want afterwards?
Yeah, it's a very interesting, layered conversation. And in the essence of time, I'm going to just try and hit the highlights. Look, man, there are some people that say you go, and I was of that mindset, right? I come from a very traditionally conservative family, meaning like nobody ever done this before. So when you start talking about the chance to make that type of money and play on Saturday, they gave me the best advice and counsel they could. But it was, when you're done playing, go find a profession that is recession proof, and you go teach and coach, and they would have been supportive no matter what I chose to do. But to me, that made the most sense. So I had a backup plan. I remember sitting, Marcus Hagans is now the wide receiver coach at UVA. Yeah. He was the quarterback after Matt Sharp when I was there. And I remember we were getting ready to go to a party in college one night, and I'm sitting in my bedroom, counting my college credits. And he was like, Fleet, what are you doing? We about to go kick it. I'm like, yeah. I can't go home and I tell my mother I don't have no degree for free, so to speak, and I'm at a prestigious university like this. That's a no-go. So my point is, I had developed those habits of making sure you take care of your business before and after you go party and take care of all other stuff. Sunday, that's a plan B. I look at it as a plan B when you start thinking about other professional opportunities. Now, along the way, I played with guys. There was no plan B. They threw themselves completely immersed 1,000% in playing on Sunday. There was no other option. They didn't come from environments that had as much support as I had. So they were like, man, I have to, no matter what, have to get to Sunday. And quite frankly, it worked for some of those guys. I think a person got to be honest with them. If you want to go play ball on Sunday, it's about taking care of your business while you're on campus on Saturday, and not just to play on the field. They're going to talk to your professors. They're going to talk to people in football administration. They're going to talk to the strength and conditioning staff. They're going to talk to the medical trainers. As a former scout, I can tell you a lot of times when it's between you and another dude, something that minute as what your reputation is in the building. We can see the tape. Who are you as a dude? And as you can see, given the news that's in the league right now, who you are, what you do, your behavioral patterns, and all of that matters in terms of who you want to bring into your organization. So the work is the work. Yeah, you got to have nutrition. Last part for me. Nutrition, rest, flexibility, and hydration. I didn't do those things enough when I was on my way up. Not all that information is readily available now. It was a little different deal in my day.
Definitely. No, I understand that. You know, we kind of want to keep going into who you are, though. Can you talk to us now about your day job a little bit? So, you know, we want to understand just how you got into radio, you know, how hard it is to get into, and even, you know, the process for getting ready for something so unpredictable as talk show radio. You know, I want Langston to let us have callers and do all that, but Langston hadn't signed on that yet, but I'm waiting.
So, again, man, I'm a big believer in opportunity shapes your ambition. You don't really know what you want to do unless the opportunity presents itself. When I saw that letter from Tennessee, first time I ever thought playing after high school was a possibility. When you see a scout for the Cowboys and they telling you, yo, we're going to bring you in camp with us as long as you have the proper checks and balances. So opportunity shapes your ambition. So where am I at? I'm in Lexington, Kentucky. One of my boys from Houston called me. He's like, yo, University of Kentucky, come be a part of the sponsorship sales department, where you're selling the UK brand to local businesses throughout Central Kentucky. I'm like, all right, they got a guy up there that I like, the dude named Randall Cobb. I kept calling back to my people. I was like, they got a dude up here? I think y'all need to see what's going on, this Randall Cobb dude. But it was actually on a sales call. I'm in a corporate environment. I'm doing my sales stuff. And a dude heard me talking about the UK game. He said, can you come on the airwaves and do that next week? I said, yeah. He said, can you come back the following week after doing that? He said, yeah. He said, can you come back every day? So in a matter of moments, I went from just talking as I always do, clearly, to now I was doing local radio in Lexington every day. Local radio led to doing TV in Louisville for what is now Spectrum. It was Insight Cable back then. So now I'm doing TV in Lexington. And that's kind of like that letter from Tennessee. It was the moment that I was like, I can do a career out of this. So long story short, end up going to do some stuff for ESPN Radio in Dallas and did some local TV in Dallas. And, I would still maintain a relationship with the local people here. Long story short, I come back to Charlotte in 2014-ish, sent them my demo for all the stuff I had done in Kentucky and Texas, which wouldn't be possible if I was scared to jump. FNZ brought me in back then. We were what? We were CBS Sports back then. And here we are. I'm still in the game. I leave, come back, and here we are up and running. And I got to get this part in. And Coach, I believe that you'll feel me on this. I know that Langston will. I take a tremendous amount of pride at the opportunity that God has blessed me with to be the only African-American voice between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. in this city. And we haven't had a prominent African-American voice on the radio here in over a decade. Now, I choose to take it as a personal responsibility, even if FNZ, we were to part ways tomorrow, to try and pave the way for the young people that you guys talk to have a model that they can at least come by. The door is open. I'd say lastly, who you know gets you in the door. What you do while you in there is what keeps you there.
Definitely. No, those are incredible words of wisdom.
Powerful.
Definitely want to follow up there. Kind of want to talk about, I asked about it, but just for me, I'm legit curious. I can't imagine. Like, Langston does such a great job for us, helping steer us where to go. I feel like, he dummy proofs it. How do you prepare? Like, I listen to some of those calls. I'm listening in the mornings. I'm listening at different times. Yeah. Like, there are some real live crazy people out here that listen to you every single day. Yeah. How do you prepare for that to kind of get ready for your day?
So the term fanatic is real, right? Yeah. Like, I'm getting ready to shoot over here to the Panthers game, and I picked New England 24-17. So I'm going to have to deal with people on the post-game show and have to deal with these people. So hosting a radio show is not just cutting the mic on, right, or doing television. And TV and radio are very different. I don't have a journalism degree. I did major in speech communications while in grad school, but I didn't, undergrad. I don't have a bachelor in this. This is all trial and error and good fortune of some opportunities. So preparation, quite frankly, never stops. I fall asleep every night watching the tape. Before I took this call, I was watching the Hornets Kings from Friday night because I hadn't had a chance to watch it. I'll get up from here and listen to radio, podcast on my way to the stadium. You go in the stadium, you do that deal. You get prepared to do your post-game show. It's an ever-going process, and there's a structure and a system to it. When do you take calls? How do you take the calls? When to hang up on folks? Because some of y'all get on my nerves. So sometimes you have to tell people, okay, that's it. How often do you engage in social media? And we have pre-production meetings. There is a science to it, but it's just like running an offense or a defense. A lot of it is instinct, but there is systematic to it. But it's an ever-going process. I'm always reading. I'm always writing. I try and tell young athletes, you want to get in this business? What are those writing skills talking about, bro? Do you understand what to say, when to say it? How grammatically is it appropriate? Is it not? All of that factors in when you're trying to do this professionally and get paid, because we all got responsibilities that we got to take care of.
Oh, yeah.
Here with Stan Norfleet. And Stan, you're kind of speaking my language because I feel like I've kind of gone the same path with you, getting into TV, doing some games, high school games, some college games. So I feel like I've taken a similar track in some ways. And I listen to a lot of business books and networking. So everything you say is just so awesome to me. You finished college and you went into working with the NFL. You worked with Jerry Jones, of all people, at the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm really interested in how that went, and also just how much observation you keep with the NFL, your thoughts on the game today. Obviously you got the news this week with Aaron Rodgers and his vaccination and his coat and stuff. But just wanted you to elaborate on that just a little bit.
So, look, I got my first taste of the NFL from an executive standpoint when the Houston Texans pulled me into the organization from a corporate sales standpoint. That really opened my eyes to, and I preach this a lot on the airways and when I'm doing talks to young people, there's the game and then there's the business of the league. And I don't think people really, even fans, sometimes I'm dealing with fans and I'm like, do you really understand how the business of the NFL works? Working with Jerry, and there is no other way to say it, Chris and Coach, Jerry changed my life. It's the most money I've ever made in my life. And I tell people jokingly, I went to the business school of Jerry Jones. His progressive nature, the vision that he has for the business model impacts everything I do every day, even in radio and television. I think a whole bunch of time, how would Jerry navigate that? How do we set up the next move? Jerry is a guy that operates his organization out of love. As a man of faith, I try and live my life like that as well. Jerry loves everybody from the assistant equipment person to the star player to the coach, to the head of IT, to the lowest on the totem pole in human resources. He loves everybody the same. He invests in everybody. Jerry's a guy, and really the mentality of the organization, everybody's accessible. And so, again, I know not everybody in this part of the country loves the Cowboys, or do we have a healthy fan base here? It's hard not to love what they represent, even though it's been a while since the championship and all that, but just being on the inside as we're building AT&T Stadium, watching some dude named Tony become Romo, like it was just fascinating to watch all of that happen and to do it at the highest level. I will always be a fan of the NFL, though, I didn't cash player checks, if you will, from the NFL because I just love the game. It's the best of the best. You cannot perform on that level on the field or in those conference rooms unless you are prepared to compete. When you're talking with billionaires, you're dealing with Jerry, you got to be prepared to be on the phone with the chairman of ESPN, to the head honcho at Gatorade, to Phil Knight at Nike. You got to be prepared and be comfortable in that space. So, yeah, anywho, the NFL is always a thing for me. I got one eye on what's going on locally with the Panthers. I keep the other eye on what's going on in Dallas, but specific to the Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to make it real simple. If Aaron Rodgers misled that organization, now I don't believe for a second that the organization knew he was unvaccinated and still allowed him to do that. I believe the organization knew. I'm not reporting this. This is just my opinion. I think the organization knew and they didn't care because they are trying to do everything they can to keep Aaron Rodgers there long term. He negotiated the deal to be an unrestricted free agent at the conclusion of this season. But Aaron Rodgers was wrong. It's irresponsible. It's an egregious error. And I just read on an outlet this morning, it is unlikely that he will be suspended, possibly a fine given an investigation by the NFL into the Green Bay Packers practices. Everything that I just said about who you are, integrity and character, you can't be lying to the team if indeed that's what's happened. I'm very disappointed in A-Rod.
No, I agree. I mean, that's an extremely complicated situation. I feel is going to go on for the rest of the season, unfortunately, as, we kind of sort that thing out. But, definitely, we talk about the one eye on Dallas and we got there. So we got to look at your other eye coming back here, hometown. So, yeah. We always ask the question. I feel now it's about looking at Sam Darnold. I coach QBs as well, so I have my own opinion. But I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Is Darnold, is he the issue? Is it a situation where we need another guy? What are your thoughts on what's going on right now, and how would you best troubleshoot what you see?
So it's risky. I know that they pulled the trigger in trying to get Matthew Stafford here. Clearly that didn't work out. They decided to move on from Teddy, which I questioned at the time. I'm like, 1 year, he didn't have McCaffrey either. The offensive line was bad last year, it's bad this year, but they used Teddy as the sacrificial lamb. Okay, fine. Does Sam Darnold present an athletic upside over Teddy, the willingness to push the ball down the field and make some of those type of throws? Yeah. I would say Teddy's resume as a starter, better than Sam. And for whatever reason, Matt Rule and Joe Brady decided that they were going to hitch their wagons to Sam Darnold. Okay. I don't completely blame Sam. Sam had bad habits. Sam was broken in New York. And I've seen quarterbacks. When I was in Washington, Jason Campbell at one point had 4 different coordinators for 4 consecutive years. A quarterback has to, Coach, you may agree with this, a quarterback has to get in rhythm. He has to have trust in what the overall philosophy is, given the various route concepts and what you're trying to get done from a run game blocking standpoint. He's got to know that you believe in him and that he believes in the game plan. Sam Darnold here looked good when he's playing against inferior competition. That's just what it is. They started playing Dallas, Minnesota, some of these other teams, and then he reverted back to some of those bad habits. I don't put all the onus on Sam. I don't think Matt Rule and Joe Brady have helped them enough in the run game, not running the ball enough. We'll see today if they get back to running this thing 33, 35, maybe not 47 times like last week, but we'll see if they get back to doing that. The offensive line is not good. And when they had an opportunity, if we got to see P.J. Walker today, I'm going to lose it on the postgame show. It's nothing against P.J. They had an opportunity to bolster and solidify a better option from a backup standpoint, whether that be Mac Jones, who they're going to face today, or whether that was Justin Fields. It was risky. I don't completely blame Sam, though, fellas.
No, I can understand that for sure, and I think that's a great take. Now we got to flip it a little bit. I want to talk ACC. I know your ties there. I'm a Wake Forest, grad school graduate.
Okay.
So the ACC this year to me is the craziest. I mean, for better or for worse, of course, for our CFP dreams. Of course, my boys suffered a non-conference loss to UNC, bad nonetheless. Can you kind of talk about your feelings of the state of the ACC? And also, I've got to ask for me and Langston. We argue this all the time now. Who's the better Sam? Because my guy Hartman's coming up over Howell there, and I think he's coming on strong.
Well, let me just get to that quarterback part, because I argue with my radio partner, Nick Wilson, something that I coined it, and he's taken it and ran with it. But big, deep energy, BDE. That's what you got going on, Coach. You got some big, deep energy. It's Sam Howell. It's real simple. Sam Howell's the more talented player, right? And I'm going to tell you who'll tell you that. And I know what. Hartman, does Hartman have another year? I'm going off the top of my head here. Or is this it for him?
I think he can. I think he has another year. I mean, I think he does.
NFL evaluators will tell you Sam Howell is definitely the better prospect. He has more physical upside to what he can do with the football. Is Sam Hartman having a better year? Yes. So again, I go Howell. The ACC. We came into this year, the ACC, I believe we returned 13 or 14 quarterbacks. So you thought if you got veterans at the quarterback spot, we had a little bit of musical chairs on the coaching front, but nothing crazy. Mike Norvell held on to his job. Justin Fuente held on to his job. Given what happened on Friday night, we'll see what happens there. So I thought the ACC had a chance. And then I saw Clemson week 1 at Bank of America Stadium against Georgia. And I said, well, that's it for the ACC. When Virginia Tech upset Carolina and when they were ranked number 10 in week 1 and Clemson goes down against Georgia, a very good Georgia team, I said, yeah, that's a wrap. The bottom line is this. This is the worst I've seen the ACC in a while. And it's mind-boggling and maddening given the quarterbacks. It's just a tough year. Clemson's banged up. Carolina lost so many weapons. My God, Florida State. All due respect to what's going on with Coach Cutcliffe and Duke, I think it may be that time to pull the plug on Coach Cut in Durham. Maybe Will Healy goes up the road here and gets him a job. I think that'll be a good move if Duke is able to lure Will Healy away from Charlotte. Congratulations, Wake Forest. They've been the best story across the conference. The problem, and I say this about across all sport, especially when it comes to young people, I don't worry about when people fail. You only got 2 choices when you fail. You either quit or you get motivated to do better. But when you have success, can you stay focused? Can you be disciplined? What are your habits like? Are you being mentored and nurtured to handle said success? I knew Wake Forest, at least I figured, Wake Forest would get tripped up, which is why I projected that Carolina would indeed upset them tomorrow. So for the first time in the CFP, we won't have an ACC team. That stinks. But it is what it is. Any given Saturday, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Well, guys, I'm here with Stan Norfleet. Stan, you have been phenomenal. I've been sitting here taking notes. Just from a business point of view, I mean good golly, you've really got me excited. I know Grice and I both are business degree guys. So anyway, most people in Charlotte already know you. You know how to follow you. If they're not, they need to be. But just tell the listeners where on WFNZ, the time slot, and how they can follow your work.
Appreciate that. Always available at Stan Sportsman. My people get on me that I don't live my life on social media. I use it for what it is. I promote when I'm going to do things like this, and certainly when I'm going to do the air shift every weekday, WFNZ 6:10 a.m., 102.5 FM. That's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You'll hear me, my partner, Nick Wilson. I'm also, as we are the flagship for the Charlotte Hornets, I do every post-game show for the Charlotte Hornets, as well as the Panthers. So coming up here, that'll be about 4 o'clock, 4:30, we'll kick off a 2-hour post-game show. So that's where you can find me.
Well, I followed you on Twitter this week. I think I'm going to get your phone number from Langston. I want to start bothering you, getting some of that Jerry Jones knowledge. This has been phenomenal. We appreciate your time here.
Yeah, I thank you so much for the invite, man. Much respect to Langston, what you guys do. And thank you. Oftentimes I have to say this, as high school players, even as parents, a lot of times you don't understand what has to go on behind the scenes from an administration standpoint, coaching, booster club, outlets like this. Thanks to the Observer, Langston, all you guys for what you do. You guys are really changing lives each and every day. And for me, as a product of CMS, to be able to come back on here, and God knows I'm blessed to be able to do it on the air daily. Thank you to all of you that make this happen and the invitation.
Definitely. Have a great
one. Hit me up. You can always hit me up. We could talk shop. Now, I'm not doing 2 radio shows. I'm not doing one for you and then go through one. I tell all my boys, I'm doing one show, and then I'll answer questions throughout the week as I can.
No, it's all good. Well, hey, can we expect you on FNZ long term? Is this going to be a lifelong deal? Because I think you're a big timer. I'm scared you're going to go off to some national network.
Well, again, opportunity shapes ambition. There are conversations happening right now about what that looks in the short term here at FNZ. I'll be honest with you. I'm not exactly happy about opportunities that are available from a macro view. I'm thankful to FNZ, and that is home for now. But we're owned and operated by Radio 1 out of the DMV area. But I am exploring all opportunities at this time.
Hey, that's life. That's what you got to do. You got to do what's best for you. But you've been great for us and our viewers and our listeners today, and we can't thank you enough for here on Talking Prep.